Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about 5 tips for senior developer interviews. This is going to help you demonstrate your technical expertise, your problem solving skills, your leadership abilities, and it's going to help you land that dream job that you're looking for. Jumping straight into it, tip number 1 is to master the fundamentals and your advanced concepts. Even if you're a senior developer, people like me, hiring managers, recruiters, companies that are growing their technology team, we're always going to ask you these standard questions. So really brush up on your core principles as a senior developer. Make sure you have a strong grasp of algorithms, data structures, systems design, database optimization, and that's more if you're back-end or full stack, and then if you're on the front-end side of things. Make sure that you know the latest technologies. Right. So understand the core fundamentals of technology and software development. Algorithms, data structures, system design, database design, database optimization. Then looking more specifically into like domain specific knowledge, this can be something like understanding what the client's tech stack looks like and how your knowledge relates to what they're looking for. So it could be the architecture that it's on. Maybe you're very experienced with AWS. Really highlight your AWS experience and communicate that knowledge well to them. It could be that you understand the CI/CD pipeline. Start to show that you have an understanding of how that works, why it works, how you've done it. Ask them how they do it. Have a discussion about that. And then, of course, the frameworks that they're using. Why are they using it? How are they using it? Are they on TypeScript to JavaScript, React to Angular? Understanding these, showing that you have a good understanding of these core technologies and that you've researched this job. And then just stay current, stay current with what is happening in the field, what's happening in technology. Now it's super easy. Everything's AI. So stay current with AI, stay current with automation. Show something that you've done with AI, show something that you've done with automation. It really goes a long way. So that's number 1, just mastering the fundamentals and some advanced concepts, because you will be asked about domain-specific knowledge, about core coding principles, and about latest trends. The second thing that you should be thinking about is showcasing your mentorship and leadership ability. A lot of times, just because you are a senior, you believe that leadership, mentorship, people skills kind of implied, not as big of a deal because you have so much experience. This experience speaks for yourself. But realistically, you and everyone else with 10 years of experience has 10 years of experience. But your leadership, your mentorship, your tutorship of your team is what's going to separate you. So share examples of success for mentorship. That could be literally saying like, hey, every time I do a pull request or a code review, even when it's a great code, I will still write areas for that person to improve so that they can learn and grow. Your mentorship could be team-wide because you help even on deployments and code reviews where you give valuable feedback even for code. Something else about leadership is you could speak to times where the team was not functioning super well, their morale was down, the motivation was down, or you saw specific people in the team feeling frustrated or being short with stakeholders or not delivering as much as they're expecting them to. And not just saying, hey, step up your game, trying to understand why that happened. Leadership can also be from negative side. You can be like, hey, yeah, I used to have a short temper, or I used to struggle to get along with certain colleagues or stakeholders. And because of X, Y, and Z, now I'm much better prepared to handle these kind of more difficult situations that are difficult for me, not necessarily for other people, but for me, historically, I've struggled with them. And I feel like I've stepped up my game. You could even show places where you used to make a mistake and be like, yeah, that's how I used to handle conflicts in the past. And now this is how I handle conflicts going forward. And a good example of that is we recently had a conflict. Historically, I would have done X. Now I do Y. So really show your leadership abilities. I did a lot of interviews this past week for a couple of different roles, and like a question that I asked is like, how do you handle a teammate not performing? And it's all every single person bar none said, oh yeah, well, I try to figure out what was going wrong. I try to help them. And well, we are a big company, so luckily we could just move them on to a different team. Like, it's basically, I tried, I gave up, and because it's easier to get someone else than to deal with this person, we moved on. No showcase of leadership, no showcase of mentorship abilities. Very poor leadership abilities right there. So really, especially if you're looking for team lead or engineering manager roles, that question is going to come. And if your answer is the same as that, yeah, I mean, you'll still maybe get the job, but don't expect to perform at the top of that salary band. Number 3, be ready for system design challenges. So these can be like, walk me through a system design. I want to see how you think big picture, what kind of questions you ask about scalability, about maintenance, about cost effectiveness. I want to see how you think through problems of building a system, designing a system, how you've done it historically, how you would think about doing something current. And I want to hear like why you've done these decisions. It's not that doing something specifically is the right decision. It's more like, okay, given that you made this decision, why did you make the decision? Is it a scalability decision? Is it a complexity decision? Is it performance-based? Is it cost-based? If it's performance and scalability, like, walk me through your thought process, okay? And then doing some kind of speaking to some edge cases about, okay, you would design it like this way, and there could be some edge cases where these are the 3 or 4 things that might not go well if you created a system like this, and these are the considerations that you would need. So really be ready for some system design chain questions, or speaking about some system designs you've done, or the current system design of that new employer or new potential employer. Number 4. Okay, going into number 4. You want to demonstrate that you can perform well under pressure. Okay, so give me an example of a time you performed under pressure. Performed well under pressure. Again, I had like 7 interviews this past week, and it was literally, oh yeah, there was lots to do, so I just put in more time and we got it done right. And like, okay, that's amazing. Maybe not really, but like, you've shown me nothing about how you actually perform under pressure. You know, I want to see how you do under pressure. I want to see like how you manage a team under pressure. I want to see how you manage other people that are feeling under pressure when you're not feeling under pressure. And pressure is not just deadline based. Pressure is not just cost based. Pressure could be how the team is doing, or how other people that bottlenecks are doing, and how you manage that. So pressure doesn't have to be pressed onto you. Pressure can be pressed onto other people, and how you manage that, how you deal with putting pressure on other people, putting pressure on yourself, understanding when people are under pressure. These are all different angles of how you perform well under pressure, and different stories that you can provide to the recruiters, to the hiring manager, to the hiring team, of giving examples of how you perform well under pressure, and not, oh, well, there was a lot of work that we needed to do, so I just worked extra hard. Like it's really not that impressive. It really hasn't, like, you're a senior. You need to be showing me that you're a senior. Don't give me the generic answer. Okay. Maybe for low paid positions, yeah, fine. But if you're really trying to take your career into your own hands, you should probably think these questions through. And I think that having good stories of how you've dealt with pressure, how you think of pressure, is very valuable. Tip number 5, be prepared for behavioral and cultural questions. I know that this kind of how do you perform under pressure is one of those, or giving me an example of your leadership abilities. But, cultural questions are more than just that. Cultural questions can be, how do you disagree with people? Um, how do you handle decisions being made that you had no input into? Um, do you disagree and continue? Um, Forget the exact term. Something like the point is basically you do disagree, but you will follow through with that task and execute very high level and professional. Or are you like a little crybaby? I know I dealt with one guy. I hated his decision. I didn't want it to be done. And eventually, because he was crying so much about it, I just said, you know what, it's actually not that important for me. Let's go with his decision. But we didn't work with him. Like, we worked with him for like a year after that, maybe max. And that was it. Because I was like, man, you're a senior and you're behaving like a baby around this. You have such a fragile, sensitive ego. And you're very well paid. So at this level, I'm not going to perform well with a team like that. I'd rather find someone that can perform well in those behavioral situations, right? So, culture, be ready for some culture questions. Um, I'm going to I just had another idea. So, we're going to do 6 tips today, not 5. But yeah, basically, be ready for cultural questions. Be ready for difficult times where you had to disagree, times where you were frustrated, how you handle disagreements, how do you deal with people that you do not like. Okay, because this is business, this is company. You're not going to like everyone. Not everyone's going to like everyone, and that's completely fine. It's just how do you deal with that? How do you manage that? Or are you a people pleaser, or are you very assertive? These kind of questions, be ready for them. And then tip number 6 is actually to flip it around on them. How does the company handle disagreements? What is the culture like for voicing disagreements? What is the culture like for arguing? What is the culture like for managing pressure? Okay. How open are people to pushback? How open are people to being disagreed with in public versus in private? How do difficult situations get managed? I remember I had a boss that was not amazing and no one liked him. This is like 5-6 years ago, and basically he just pushed off all the work responsibilities onto us, and which is fine if you like the guy and respect the guy, and then you can learn from it. But it was really just grunt work, managerial work that was not meant for us. And we didn't go directly to him. We actually went to our boss and said, hey, we have a situation, how can we handle it? And then he went to my boss and then said, hey, you're having problems with your underlings. And then we all had a session just hatching it all out. But then that boss came to me afterwards and said, actually, I appreciate that you brought this up. It's great. I would have actually appreciated it if you spoke to me directly first instead of going to my boss. So some people want to be spoken to directly first. Other people want that whole, okay, there's a structure, there's a disagreement structure. So be ready for that. Review their culture, review their mission, vision, values, purpose, and ask questions around that so that you show that you've taken initiative. Okay, you're a senior. You should be looking at not just what you can do for the company, but also what the company can do for you. So I hope you got some value out of these few tips. I'll be making, I'm going to try and make more videos. It's been bad lately, but that's okay. Difficult showing your face on the camera like this. But I'd appreciate like, maybe even a subscribe, get my numbers up, make me feel better about myself. And any questions you have, just drop them in the comments. I'll make sure that I provide a thoughtful and considered response.